I'm the recovery Ronin. I had to take on this mantle. I have no choice. A lifelong of obsession about human consciousness and behavior, being born to the disease of addiction, fighting so hard for my own, and that obsession guiding me into becoming a clinician. It wasn't even something I was trying to do. My obsession guided me there. The people around me pushed me into it because of the way I talked. And, I said all the same things. I believed what I was told about what addiction, what recovery is, what the 12-step program is about. And then I started realizing a lot of cracks in the ideology and what we say and what we do, the gaps. It's beyond frustrating. And what makes me angry, it's not a person. It's not even the ideology. It's the protective nature of that ideology, where I see people who are miserable, angry, bored out of their mind, anxious, petty, who have become basically the leaders. Anybody that tries to have meaningful, deeper conversations beyond what is said in the culture is radically attacked. How do I know this? Well, shit, I'm so sure of it. When I first read Wally P's book, and if you don't know who Wally P is, he is the AA expert. Dr. Bob was his grand sponsor. He's a local guy down here in South Florida. I think he passed recently. Um, he got over 70,000 documents, the records that they kept when Bill W., Dr. Bob, and the people that started AA. He interviewed 15 of the founders, read through all those documents, wrote the book Back to Basics, did lecture tours, took over 500,000 people through the steps. And when I read his book and heard his lecture, I knew immediately he was attacked by the 12-step community. How did I know that? And my partner I worked with at the adventure program knew him, and I asked him, I went up to him, I said, I know this is true, but confirm it for me, that Wally P and his family have been getting threats from the AA community for the last few decades. He goes, how did you know? Because I understand the ideology. That when ignorance is so rampant, the only way to keep it there is through arrogance, which means, right, we've built an ideology that has nothing to do with the 12-step program. So many of the things we say in recovery make no fucking sense. We just repeat them because they sound cool because other people say them, and it does. I did too. My language became cliches and platitudes, right? My solution to everything was pray about it. Just keep it simple. You're overcomplicating it. Just one day at a time. It's just progress, not perfection. And what I realized is it's worse than I ever imagined. Not only can nobody I know, I think maybe one or two people out of thousands that I have explored cliches with have the ability to define a cliche without just saying another cliche. What does that mean? How far have we gone that ancient wisdom that has been handed down to us from our forefathers, from our spiritual leaders, are literally just bumper stickers. They're placeholders to keep our excuses loud and our transformation limited. And it's even worse than that. Not only can we not define a cliche, the vast, vast majority of people, me too, like I really struggled with this. I had to do a lot of work to break this ignorance. We don't even know how to define any of the 12-step principles for ourselves. Even something that is foundational, anonymity. I've asked hundreds of people, what does anonymity mean? Why is it so important? What's the 12 tradition, right? Anonymity is the spiritual foundation for the entire program, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Right. So what does it mean? Everybody is giving me the same fucking answer. Well, what's said here stays here. People don't want their stuff out there, which is absolutely true in the 1930s and 40s. But in the AA 12 and 12, it actually goes a little deeper into this. Because in the 30s and 40s, they were meeting in secret. We were still giving people frontal lobotomies for alcoholism. So they were kind of not putting themselves out there. Admitting you were an alcoholic in the 1930s was even like legitimately potentially a death sentence. You were the biggest scum on earth because we didn't understand anything about addiction in the brain at the time. And then in 1956, we were able to map the brain and we realized, oops, our bad. Maybe we shouldn't have been ripping people's brains out. It doesn't look like a choice. It looks like an emergency state of the brain. It looks like the same thing when somebody's being shot at or drowned. That's not a choice. That is a hardwired program of survival in human physiology. So we changed our approach. And with that, AA started becoming popular and more accepted, and people started speaking about it. There was actors and singers saying that AA helped change their lives. And then when they would relapse, one of them got drunk and killed a family in a car accident. The World Organization came together and they expanded the definition of anonymity. The reason why it's now principles over personalities is because nobody represents it. Nobody can speak for it. Because if you speak for a 12-step program, and I am not a 12-step educator, there is no such thing, and I am defining why that is right now. Because if you speak for it, you are the representation. If you go around telling everybody you're a 12-step member, and that it changed your life, and you start speaking on it publicly, not just in meetings, then you start becoming the representation of that program. Now, don't get me wrong. The way I carry myself is a representation of my Narcotics Anonymous program. But I am not a representative of Narcotics Anonymous. There is a massive difference between the two. Now, back to the ignorance and arrogance, how many people I know that have clean time that understand this? None. None. Maybe two. Like, when I say none, it's obviously not totalities. I hate that I have to fucking say this all the time. When you speak in generalities, it's not totalities. There's always exceptions to the rule. But the vast majority, we have gotten so Dunning-Kruger down. Like, the only thing that outweighs our ignorance is our arrogance, the belief that we know everything when we have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. The only thing I'm ever right about is I am never right about anything. I am expressing myself, and every day I learn more. I know a month from now I'm going to think I was dumb today. It keeps me very humble and very open. But I am interested in growth. Very few people are. It is wild, the difference in conversations I have with my patients and that I have with my peers in the 12-step community, or my peers at work, or my peers, or my colleagues, or my friends. Everybody basically already knows everything. Nobody's really asking deeper questions. They've just built a new ego identity to protect the stability they've created. They're not continuing to evolve. How many people do you know that have consistency, that are continuing to increase healthy habits and decrease unhealthy ones? I'd be amazed if you knew two. Especially, which is wild, like people that are in the therapeutic community, the recovery, or the medical community. You would think every self-actualized adult in the country has consistency, because we have more opportunity to improve ourselves and improve our health and our lifestyle more than anybody in history. We have, I mean, when I talk about what I do, that I meditate every day, like at least an hour a day, that I practice Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga, everybody, oh, I don't have time for that. What? You have less than 24 hours in the day? The fuck are you talking about? How many hours you spend watching television, scrolling on your fucking phone? How many hours do you nap or sleep? How much time you spend eating bullshit? Right? Even driving on the way to work, you can practice metacognition. You can practice mindfulness. You can practice breath work. I do it every day. It's we are so full of fucking shit. And I love my patients. Fuck do I love my patients. My wife and the few friends that I have that I can have meaningful conversations with. This is what makes me angry. It's not that we're lost, that we're ignorant, that we're arrogant. It's that we are so defensive to meaningful conversations, to anything that challenges the walls that we've built of our ego, right? I have this image in my mind of a modern American. They're in this wall and it goes right over their head and you can just barely see their eyes peeking out. And I'm out here going, hey, man, hey, there's a way. There's a way, man. We have enough information. We understand. We could define awakening in our minds. We can feel it in our hearts. We can accept it with our bodies. We have a lot of information. Like if you combine the work from people like Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden and Gary Brecka and the mindset stuff with David Goggins and Joe Wilkins, and you look back at the history of the mystical teachings and you understand behavioral and cognitive sciences. And I've simplified it into this thing, a very easily understandable mindset, why you should have this mindset, and a very easily understandable skill set and why you should practice this skill set and how it'll transform you, how it will work, and how it is guaranteed to offer you more success, more healing, no matter where you are, where you're at. It doesn't matter. You can start immediately. The two hard parts about the process of awakening. The first one is the mindset of the day. Today is the greatest opportunity in my fucking life. That never changes. The backwards part that people don't get about that mindset, that today's the greatest opportunity in my life. The worse I feel, the more I'm struggling in the day, the greater the opportunity is. I fucking embrace it. I just took off like a 1/4 inch of my pinky toe kicking my couch. And I can't train like I like to. I can't, go hit my heavy bag. I can't go running on the beach. So I'm limited. It hurt. I was limping at work. Struggle. I love it. I fucking do. I love it. I love seeing what I'm capable of. I love finding out my new strengths, how much I can focus when I'm distracted, how I can manage pain, right? Where my ego that exists in me tells me to limp more so everybody has sympathy and everybody goes, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I can go, "Oh no, I'm hurt, but see me, see how strong I am." And I notice my ego. It just doesn't have power anymore. It still will manipulate me. I'll still act out in it sometimes. I'll still show off. I'll still want validation. But I win a lot of those battles now. The big difference is, the big difference between me and most people is I'm in the fight. I'm in the fucking fight. That is my job. My job as a fucking human being to get in the fight. And for my entire life, I was told the fight was through force of will and behavior. And the way to change is to beat yourself up, to replay the tape, to keep it green, to run it through, to ruminate on the mistakes you've made, to beat yourself up with more guilt and shame. How's that working out for you? The crazy thing is there is no fucking evidence anywhere that this has done anything for anybody. Has it, the consequences forced the gift of desperation? Absolutely. Absolutely it does. But that doesn't create change. It creates willingness. But when willingness is only met with platitudes, wishes, hope, not functional wisdom, not truth. When willingness is met with utter fucking bullshit, very few of us make it out. And one of the biggest reasons I'm here with my voice, what I'm here to do, is to, one, point out, make it abundantly clear. Addicts fight. All of us, every human I've ever met who is self-destructive wants to be less self-destructive. 99% of the people I've met in my life have beautiful fucking hearts, full of love, full of passion, full of fire and desire. And we tell them they didn't want it enough. They didn't suffer enough. They didn't really mean it. They didn't hit their bottom enough. They didn't keep it simple hard enough. We are so fucking stupid, it blows my mind how we haven't evolved out of this already. How I have to be the one to point out the obviousness of our fucking stupidity. I watch them fight every day. It's not that we don't want to fight. It's not that we're not putting the energy into the fight. It's that we're fighting the wrong war. We are not at war with substances or our phone or sex or pornography or racism or oppression, you fucking morons. We live in the most abundant time in history. Objectively, the fuck are you talking about? Everybody has opportunity. Yeah, you got the cards you got. All these things exist. The world's not there. Yeah, we're not perfect. We're not perfect people. We're not a perfect society. We're far fucking from it. But overcoming self has always been the war. What do you think the fucking Bible's about? What do you think Buddhism is about? Hinduism, Taoism, Stoicism. And we're going to blame everybody and everything else? Yeah. I love playing the victim, hated feeling like one. I was born addicted to heroin, tortured mother, dumped all that on me. Very sick father. No support, no direction in my fucking life. I became what the world wanted me to be, a narcissistic, savage asshole. And I got a lot of attention for it. Because that's all that mattered to me. Trying to find where I belonged, where I could fit in. I didn't know what confidence was. I know what the character the world wanted me to become was, so that's what I did. That's what I became. Self-righteous, arrogant, self-serving. We don't even understand selfishness no more. It's only the ego's misinterpretation of reality, thinking that quick dopamine hits is the same thing as effort-based reward. Because our brain doesn't know the difference. Our brain hasn't evolved to this new abundant fucking reality. And then we tell people fear. What do we do? What do we do in meetings? What do we do in groups? What do we do in therapy? What's the number one thing we do? We talk about triggers, substances, and ruminate on problems. The fact that I have to point out that that is some dumb shit. We're treating addiction like it's the 1970s. Right, sure. In the 1970s, a lot of people may have been in denial, right? They might have come in and been a raging alcoholic and said, no, I don't have a problem. And we still talk like that's a fucking thing. You know how rare that is that I meet somebody that's lived in addiction that is in denial about their addiction? What we're in denial about is how full of shit we are. That's what the conversation must be. But when we have so few leaders who have actually evolved their consciousness, who have had the spiritual awakening, who have done the deep intrinsic work that is involved in the steps or in cognitive sciences or behavioral sciences, that have used neuroscience to rewire their brain or have studied these philosophies and incorporated them into their lifestyle, not with words. That's what we do. That's what I was doing. Talking a big game. You know what made the difference? Wasn't when I started projecting a different character into the world. When I got better at making people think I was smart or that I was confident. It was when I started to really practice presence. I started to recognize what awareness is. Awareness is the mother of change. You can't change nothing without awareness. You fucking kidding me? We're driving around in our adult vehicles, polishing the fucking bumper when the engine won't start. Not even trying to diagnose what the fucking core of the issue is. Fixing what it looks like. talking about anxiety and its expressions, talking about addiction as substances. I mean, I can't tell you how many fucking therapists I've had tell me or tell my patients that the substance is the issue and what we're here to do is to learn how to say no. The whole recovery culture is built around this idea that what recovery is in the hardest moment. Next time you have that massive compulsion to use, that's when your recovery shows up. The dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. You know how much I hated myself because I believed that? That stupid fucking idea, the one we have built our entire recovery culture around, our entire idea of change, of healing around, that is force of will in the hardest of moments when you don't have the skill of force of will in the easiest of moments. Without trying to understand brain function, human physiology, human behavior. We'd rather project our fucking ignorance because it makes us feel comfortable in our fucking ignorance and make us feel righteous like we did it by force of will. You have will, but not like that. That is not how anything works. Right? I've explored this with thousands and thousands of addicts. Let me make this clear. Let me ask a question to go ahead and prove how fucking stupid this is. Right? The big thing about recovery is when next time your craving comes, you got to play the tape through. You got to keep it green. You got to call your sponsor right before you pick up that drink. How many times has that worked for you in the past? You can ask every addict. We've all tried it hundreds or even thousands of times. And let's even give it a relapse, not even in the midst of your addiction. Let's even give it a relapse. Right? You got a couple weeks, couple months, you're fighting for your recovery, trying to do everything. Everybody wants fucking recovery. Get the fuck out of here. It's so unbelievably ignorant that we pretend addicts don't want freedom from fucking disease of addiction. Of course we do. It's hell. Watching yourself destroy everything you care about for nothing. You even hate the substance. For addicts, that fucking shit stopped being fun a long time ago. All it is a tiny bit of relief of our fucking suffering. And we come in and we don't relieve the suffering. We wonder why so few of us are actually finding lasting recovery. And then we got the dumb fucking assholes out there go, it's 100% not their fault. Yeah, everything is. Don't pick up, you won't get high. I'm not here to tell people how to stay clean and sober. I have no fucking clue how to tell people how to not use. I failed at it hundreds of times. What I'm good at is understanding human consciousness and how to have a spiritual awakening, how to evolve your consciousness, what mindset, skill sets you need, both technical and spiritual. That's what I figured out. How to not use, don't pick up, you won't get high. That's about it. That works 100% of the time. Now, is that reality? No, but nobody fucking cares because your arrogant, ignorant bullshit is more important than truth because truth is too fucking uncomfortable and it's going to challenge the defense mechanisms you've built to keep yourself fucking stuck in this new way of life that is still self fucking destructive as hell. You still have the same personality types. You still respond to stresses the same way. You still have the same type of relationships. You haven't improved fucking shit. Yeah, everybody has the initial movement, the external motivating factors. You get away from the substance into a new context. You're speaking a new language around new people. You're motivated. You want the balance, the girl, the guy, the attention, the self-respect, the money in your pocket. And you'll get all that. That's where most of us go back. Because once that initial external motivator drive to get away from the substance and build this new life, because it's not really deep, intrinsic, deep, meaningful work, what winds up happening is once all that wears off, boredom. And boredom is the biggest trigger we have today. It's so misunderstood. What is boredom? Took me a long time to understand this. Boredom isn't that you don't have enough to do, that you're not stimulated enough. It's how much you can't stand being you. It's the uncomfortable nature of existing inside of your mind, your heart, and your body. Why is it so uncomfortable? Because you know the truth. You know you're more. You know you're wasting your potential. You know you're wasting your life. You know you're not living up to who you can be. And you're scared. It's your spirit coming forward, making you feel angst, saying, get your fucking ass in gear. I don't want to waste this whole fucking life. And I'm standing before God, like Goggins said, at the end of my life. And he shows me a film of somebody who's done all these incredible things, made a great impact on the world, inspired others, was loved and respected, and accomplished all these things. And you go, but God, who is that? And he tells you it's who you were supposed to be. But you fought for your fucking laziness instead. You fought for your arrogance instead. You fought to stay comfortable. As if comfortable means happiness. It's the cause of all early morbidity, this aggressive seeking of comfort that our brain has gotten so used to in the modern world. The survival mechanisms of the wild has now been hijacked by the age of abundance. And we don't have the courage to be honest about it. And I know why. Because if you're honest about it, you might have to do something about it. And not only that, it'll be like ripping a nail off of your finger. If you put your ego on the fire, you won't have a new identity yet. You'll just have a lack of one. And it's fucking scary. I know. I walked it. I've been in the river of change. Felt like hanging from a mountain by my fucking fingertips. There was nothing and no one underneath me. All I had was the practice of trust and a desperation that if I just kept fighting, one day I'd feel okay. I would understand what it's like to be at peace. And it's more beautiful than I ever hoped. And I got to sit here and watch the community I love project the dumbest fucking things despite zero evidence. Back to my question. Every addict I've ever met has been here many times. Where we stopped using for a few days, few weeks, few months, fighting our asses off for our recovery. And the stress builds. We're arguing with our partner. A few bad things happen in a row. We're on our way to the liquor store, the dope man, and we could hear it in our head. We just went through hell trying to put our lives back together. Detoxing, sleeping all the time, feeling like hell, overwhelmed. And we're on the way, and we know it. We can feel it in our mind, the bartering going on between the ego and our higher self that we're trying to find. We can hear it. Why are you even doing this? You're going to hate it. You're going to feel so full of shit. Look at the consequences. You're going to make your loved one cry. You might lose your car over this. You might lose your job. If you don't turn around right now, you're going to destroy everything. We heard it. We were playing the tape through. We knew exactly what the consequences were. Oh, the insanity of addiction is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Who the fuck expected a different result? What? Oh, this time when you relapsed, everybody was going to be proud of you. This time when you relapsed, you were going to have a really good time. You were going to enjoy the drink. You were going to laugh and have fun. You really thought this time was going to be different. This time my addiction's going to give me all kinds of positive consequences. What? No, you didn't. Now, did you lie to yourself to justify it? Of course. Well, we don't even need to lie to ourselves. We can just, Captain fucking shows up. Captain fucking shows up and says, fuck it. That's all we need because it's not a choice, assholes. None of us turn around. We built an entire culture around something that never happens. Addiction recovery isn't about making that choice in that moment. It's about staying out of that fucking moment as best as you can. It's about beginning to heal, learning better tools to deal with the small stresses so you can build and build and build and get better at building and dealing with the big ones. You get the small things right, the big things take care of themselves. But we don't do that anymore because it's too hard. We'd rather just build a culture of fitting in and putting ourselves up on a pedestal for doing nothing. Literally nothing. You're going to clap for me because I don't stick a needle in my arm. You're going to clap for me for doing the most basic, non-self-suicidal behavior a human being can have. Celebrating me for not sticking a needle in my arm is like celebrating a father because he doesn't beat his kids. Look, get it. Stopping the substance is obviously incredibly important. But every addict will go through that. We'll all try to stop. That's not something special. We all hate being addicts. The consequences and the cost are so out of whack. That's a fucking non-issue, man. But we no longer even believe in transformation. It's all just window dressing. It's all wisdom that has gone away. All the people that really understood what this work takes, that we are willing to listen to, have passed on. And even their voices we don't listen to. I know how much hate I'm going to get from the fucking 12-step community. I'm not stupid. That's why I've taken on the character in Recovery Ronin. Because I'm at war with that shit. With the gatekeeping, pathetic ones of us. The ones who say they have recovery and have nothing that looks like recovery. If you don't have a growth mindset, if you're not trying to change the way you think, feel, and behave, like if you're not actively trying to learn about yourself, if you're not actively trying to evolve, not in words, not showing up at meetings because it makes you feel like you're important or it makes you feel good about yourself, actively challenging the way you react to the world, actively improving your habits, actively stopping bad ones, having a growth mindset, then I do not consider you in recovery because you're not. Recovery isn't the absence of a behavior. The fact that I even have to argue this is wild. It should be the most basic understanding. But yet, because we have so few people who have really done this work, and Bill W. said it, but nobody cares. The difference between the people who started evolving their consciousness and have found real freedom from addiction and alcoholism were the ones who did the meditation, the ones who did the quiet time at night and in the morning. Dr. Bob said all the same shit. Wally P said all the same shit. None of us listen. Right? We don't know what the fuck we're talking about anymore. Like we talked about anonymity. Nobody I know in recovery even knows what the fuck that means anymore. I've asked many, many people with long-term recovery, why is anonymity the spiritual foundation for the entire program? None of them had a fucking clue. I think 2 people I talked to, we had a meaningful conversation. The rest all give me just typical cliche, right? What's said here stays here. People don't want their stuff out there. In the 1930s and 40s, that was absolutely true. Because we were giving people frontal lobotomies for alcoholism. And then in 1956, we mapped the human brain and realized it's not a choice. Oops, it's an emergency state of the brain. Maybe we should stop giving lobotomies. It's a disease. An addict craving their substance of choice or their behavior of choice looks like somebody when they're being drowned or being shot at or starving to death. It is not a fucking choice. Playing the tape through is not an idea to build a recovery culture around. It's fucking nonsense. We don't need to constantly replay the consequences of our addiction. We are well aware. We need to start believing we are more than those consequences. We need to start surrendering our attachment to the guilt, the shame, and the past. And what happened with anonymity is in the 1950s, as AA started becoming more socially acceptable because we understood addiction as a disease, famous people started going around saying that Alcoholics Anonymous saved and changed their lives. And some of them were getting drunk One of them killed a family in a car accident. The World Organization decided that they needed to evolve the definition. That's why it's principles before personalities, because nobody can represent it. There is no such thing as a 12-step educator. I am not a 12-step educator. You can say the way I walk represents my personal 12-step program, but I am not a representation of 12 steps. Now, the fact that none of my friends know this. My first sponsor, if you're in a meeting with him and you say the wrong word, he'll yell at you in the middle of the meeting as if it's his fucking meeting. Because he hasn't smoked crack in over 20 years. Look, I love him, but like most people I know in recovery, they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Like they say the same things they've been saying for 12, 15, 20 fucking years. And then when you ask them to define them, can you elaborate? What did that look like? How'd you overcome it? How did you personalize it? What was the experience like? Nothing. This is why I'm angry, because I know there's millions of people like me that want freedom from this fucking disease and realize what they're getting is nonsense. It's not the 12 steps are wrong. It's that how many people embody it anymore. It's not that therapy is wrong or that DBT or CBT or smart recovery or refuge recovery or Dharma. There is amazing efficacy in every idea we've built around spiritual wellness, around spiritual teachings, philosophy, mental health, recovery modalities. They are all the same fucking thing. It is about mapping the ego and removing attachment to it while building a new identity through changing the way we perceive, through changing the way we meet the world intrinsically, internally, which means people have to map themselves. What does that mean? You're going to have to learn to meditate, practice metacognition, mindfulness. You're going to have to train attention. You're going to have to learn to focus. Yes, it's going to suck. More so for some than others, but for basically all of us, training our attention in the modern world where our environment mimics everything we used to have to work for, our attention is scattered like an exploding star. We have to turn it into a laser. My greatest dream, my whole life, was never to be rich. I want no part of being popular. I make a deal with God every morning at the beach that I will take the consequences of what comes with being famous, of being popular, if I get to make a difference in this community. So I'm willing to sacrifice because popularity to me, it never seemed like attractive. Now, like attention, sure, positive attention, but popularity doesn't mean positive attention. It means the opposite often. Oh, there's millions of people like me that want freedom, and we need to learn how to sit in the chaos of our mind. We need to learn how to focus. It's not our fault that our attention has been so scattered across the past, the future, thinking about others, how they think about us, and how we see ourselves. Cycle through the same thoughts every day, every day, every day. My greatest dream was never to be famous, rich, well known, beloved. It was one simple thing: to be able to lay in my bed at the end of the day, focus whatever I wanted to focus on, feel comfortable, peaceful in my body with the knowledge that I am a good man. That was that's all I wanted, and it's greater than I ever hoped. The peace, the wholeness, the contentment, the confidence that I have discovered through this process is far beyond my wildest dreams. This isn't a fucking cliche to me. I can define it for 30 fucking hours. What happened, what it was like, what my spiritual awakening has been. I can give you different contexts, how I react differently, how I think differently, how I feel differently, how I see differently, how I feel differently. And all I want to do is wake us up. Fear is not the way. Practice. Learning the mindset, today is the greatest opportunity of my life. I will do as much healthy things, thoughts, feelings, and impulses that I can do today. I will control what I can control. Peace, perception, effort, attitude, concentration, energy. And I will trust the process. The second hardest part of transformation. The first one is today is the greatest opportunity. The worse I feel, the better the opportunity. Everything that challenges me is an opportunity to change the way I meet it, to start to restructure my nervous system in my brain, to align with the nobility in my heart rather than fears from my past. Second, the patience for it to work, the trust, belief, or even faith that it's going to. Because if you commit to this process, you are guaranteed more health, more success, at least opportunity for more health and success in every single context of your life and every single context of what it means to be a human being. I am the Recovery Ronin. Thank you for your time.